Welcome to the next episode of PI Perspectives. Today's guest is Kirby Plessas from Plessas Experts Network. Kirby has an extensive background in OSINT research and is one of the contributing hosts for the OSINT Curious Live Webchat and podcast. Today she joins us to discuss Reddit and how to add Reddit research to your Investigator's Toolbox. This episode is brought to you by Crosstracks Case Management Software. Crosstracks now offers CTX Vision, a fully integrated video conferencing platform built into Crosstracks. The videos you host go directly into your video tab. Crosstracks also integrates with programs you already use like QuickBooks, DelvePoint, ScopeNow, Investigation Video Editor, Word, and more. The integrations combined with powerful features such as automated audio transcription and report generation help investigators generate revenue and improve efficiency. The system can be customized for any investigative specialty. Start your free trial today at crosstracks.co and use promo code PIP20. Now let's get the scoop on Reddit. Please welcome Kirby and our host, Private Investigator Matt Spare.
Hey everybody, welcome to the next episode of PI Perspectives. I am really excited today to have Kirby Plessas here with me from the Plessas Experts Network. I've met Kirby a few years ago at the OSINT conference that the Hetherington group puts on, and man, she is fantastic. She is actually emceeing the event this year. Typically, she's taught classes there. So we were talking about looking into Reddit and doing some Reddit investigations and how that works and what that looks like. So I asked her to come on the show today, and we're going to dig in deep on that. Kirby, how you doing today?
Great. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. So you're based in Arizona, correct?
Well, yes and no. So I physically spend most of my time in Arizona. My company is still based in the DC area, though.
Right. Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. But right now you're currently there, right?
Yes.
In Arizona. So
yes, yeah.
What is the pause look for you? The shutdown here. What have you been doing the last few weeks?
I've actually been working more during the shutdown than I have in the past. I just haven't been traveling. Okay. So my travel schedule decimated, of course, completely gone. Right. But I've been creating a lot of online courses, and I also started an art marketing company as well. So I've been doing a lot of online work with that as well.
That's great. You always got to have multiple passions, right? That's what keeps us sane from killing people, right?
That's right.
For me, it's music, right? If I'm not playing music, at least once a week, I get real ornery. I'm not a good guy to be around. So it's good that you have that out when you have the work-life balance. It's super important.
Absolutely.
Okay, so your Experts Network. Tell me a little bit about that. How it looks like you founded in 2008. So walk me through the process of how you got to where you are today.
The way that I founded this company it goes way back to 2003 when I left the Army. I was an Arabic linguist in the Army and signals intelligence analyst. Okay. And when I left that and I came to Washington, D.C., I came in as an OSINT analyst to DoD. And I kind of dove into a lot of the new social media at that time. 2003, there was no Facebook. MySpace probably existed already, but wasn't popular even yet. But what I was finding is that even around the world, other countries, the youth were diving into this brand new social media stuff, even back as far as 2003, and really critical intelligence problems could be solved in part by what we were finding in social media. So I dove in and I started writing a blog on the Top Secret Network. 2007, I was recruited away from DoD to help start an innovation center. And right at that point, because I was leaving DoD and I was stopping writing my blog on that Top Secret Network, people were asking me to come in and teach them how to do it. They didn't want to lose me as a source. And for the innovation center, I came in as an independent contractor. So at that point, I said, well, I guess I could teach classes. A mentor of mine, former employer, said, this is the time. You need to start a company and get this, make it, a career out of this. Right. And so I started my company and I called it Plessas Experts Network because I knew that really the most important thing when we talk about OSINT is your network. No one's going to know everything. Right. It's that network of people that you know, and that's the key to it. So that's kind of how we launched.
Yeah, I mean, that is so true when you're talking about open source and even in investigations in general, right? It's such a broad area. There's no way to be an expert in everything. And I think the folks that are successful in doing what we're doing know when to tap out when it's above their pay grade.
Exactly.
And being able to tap into somebody that at the end of the day is going to get the job done correctly.
Right. And I don't even say above pay grade, but like parallel to pay
Right.
grade, we'll say.
Right.
You have your niche, and then suddenly you come across something new. Yeah, you could spend, a lot of time figuring out that new thing, but why not just partner with somebody who's really good with what that new thing is, and you're good at what you do, and then you can work together.
Yeah, the thought of doing OSINT in 2003 is scary to me. Like that's pretty amazing. Like, where do you start? And man, like what even types of records are uploaded at that point? I mean, it's got to be just a smidge of what we've got today. What did it look like then? Where were you going to get your info?
I would say that it wasn't a smidge of what's today. It was just different. So instead of going to Facebook right away, what was really big at that time were the file sharing sites. And the funny thing is those file sharing sites had almost no protection whatsoever. Right. So you could actually, if you got somebody's username, you could just rifle through his whole index of files on whatever site he was sharing stuff on.
Oh, Napster lives again, right?
Yeah, right, exactly. So it was different. There was still a lot of information, and I had some amazing successes on the internet. But it was just completely different.
Yeah, that's crazy. So this network of experts that you have right now, what does that look like for you? Like, do you have people in-house? Do you outsource a lot of your stuff? Like, what is your model?
So for the training, most of that's in-house. So I travel around and I do like what I'm good at very specifically. And we've had a couple of other people do some other training in the past. Most of the time, that's going to be one of those things where my customers ask for me specifically. So that it's a little, it's tough to scale when it's like that. Right. So instead of hiring people who really compete against me now and try to get like somebody who's going to teach you through the classes, I bring in people who have a very good focus on something else. So right now I've got somebody who's filling up my news portal she's got over 20 years experience in OSINT and intelligence. I've got another person who also works in the news portal. He also retired DOD, over 20 years intelligence and experience. Wow. We also partner out depending on what projects are out there. So some independent contractor style partnering. We've done some R&D with, for example, SUNY Albany, and we've done some language or some high-level analysis stuff, right, where I would go and grab some people that I had worked with in other intelligence agencies who are now retired and running companies of their own. Okay. And we ask them to come in and partner and help work on very specific projects.
Right. And I was reading through your bio there too, and you're fluent in Arabic as well, right?
I wouldn't say fluent anymore. No,
not anymore.
No. So that's one of those things where you need to use it or lose it. So
there you go. Okay.
Yeah, that's one of the things I feel that I can get along reading it okay. Right. But as far as like if somebody starts speaking to me right away at first, I think I probably my jaw will drop to the floor at first, and then I'll squint at them and try to figure out what they're saying. But yeah, so I was doing all right with reading. I did a lot of reading of Arabic anyway, so internet stuff. And then also I taught myself to read Farsi because that was required.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So like before you enlisted, and thank you for serving, by the way, and today is Memorial Day. So like a double thank you as we're recording this episode. So
yeah, thanks.
I appreciate that. Especially during that time, it's crazy time. So growing up, how were you drawn to all this stuff? And what really piqued your interest into doing, this open source investigative stuff? Like what drew you to it?
I would say that when growing up, I had no clue about any of it and no interest whatsoever. What I was interested in is I wanted to be paid just to read really good literature. Okay. So I went to university, and just studied just literature. Didn't want to be a teacher, just wanted to read. And then, I ended up being the editor-in-chief of my university newspaper. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to be an editor, not a reporter necessarily, maybe, who knows. But then when I got out of college and looked for work, there really wasn't much. So I had about $30,000 worth of loans kind of just looming over me. And I went and talked to the recruiter because I had known him. Funny enough, I had been the cheerleading coach for the university at that point, right when I finished. Right. And he was at every game trying to recruit players, et cetera, right? So I knew him. So I talked to him and said, can you get me into anything like broadcast journalism or foreign languages or something like that? And when he heard foreign languages, well, they get a bonus if they can get somebody who can make it through the foreign languages schools and that sort of thing. So,
Wow.
yeah. So the next thing you know, I was taking language tests, and yeah, that's how it kind of went. And I did end up getting my loans paid off, and I had a great adventure. And I think that the military was what I needed at that point, because before the military, like I said, I wasn't interested in OSINT at all. I had no clue about it. I wasn't interested in intelligence, even languages. I thought I was going to be a translator at an embassy or something. So I had no idea what I was going to be doing.
Right.
But it gave me focus. It
Right.
gave me a mission, and that's what I really needed at that point in my life. And that's kind of changed my life for quite a bit.
Yeah, I think that's why like former military really excels in this arena of just, the organization skills that you get and the ability to like process and put things together. Says the guy who didn't serve doing anything,
No, but I'll tell you what the biggest thing I think for me is not necessarily even those things, but the fact that, you can start from the ground up and get a win, like get successful, not just, in languages or whatever else, but like you even, like I was physically fit enough when I was in college.
Right.
But when I got into the Army, eventually I ended up winning PT patches and things like that.
Nice.
So yeah, so it was just like this thing where you start to trust yourself.
Sure. Yeah, that's actually a really good point, right? Building out that belief in yourself and the confidence and all that. I know, getting back to the law enforcement guys that I know and girls that have done this type of work that gravitate towards investigations. I just see them having an advantage if they're serious about doing work and they want to do it. It's there. So. Okay, so we are here today to talk about Reddit and investigations in Reddit, and we're going to dive into all that. I just want to jump out real quick, give our sponsors some kudos, and then we'll jump back in and get going on this. All right, so everybody just sit tight.
This episode is sponsored by DelvePoint. DelvePoint keeps on advancing. They are launching 3 new searches soon. The Due Diligence search and Business Due Diligence search will focus on finding red flags through anti-money laundering data. The Commonality Report will show people relationships that will be a huge tool for investigators who do juror research. DelvePoint also just added a new motor vehicle data. This is the best time to try them out. Use promo code PIP20 at delvepoint.com/apply to get 100 free credits and a 2-week trial. Are you ready for the future of networking and learning for private investigators? Imagine an online community with a vast amount of training and resource material. What if we told you some of the best content and technology providers will give you discounts and benefits for signing up? Get ready for the investigators-toolbox.com. Online this month. Learn more at investigators-toolbox.com.
And welcome back to PI Perspectives, and we are here with Kirby Plessas, the Plessas Experts Network, and today we're here to talk about Reddit. How you doing, Kirby?
Good. Thanks again for having me.
Yeah. So before we jump into Reddit, let's talk a little bit about your podcast, because you have the OSINT Curious podcast that you're one of the contributors on. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, and actually it's a live webcast to start. So, we do put it out on podcast and we put it out on YouTube as a webcast, but it is a live webcast. And what that consists of, the OSINT Curious project, that is, I think there's maybe a dozen of us. I don't know. You can see where we are on OSINTcurio.us. In the About page, you can see everybody who's on the team, right, the board, the advisors, and the former advisor. But we've got a good spread of people from around the world and with different kind of focuses in OSINT. Okay. And so when we all get together in this webcast and we talk about, whatever the latest things that are happening, we'll have a little bit different perspective, and we all kind of come and grab things from different parts of whatever happening on the internet at any point in time.
Yeah, it's, I guess, kind of similar to your business model, right? The folks that you have, you're doing work with, it's the same kind of spirit, right?
Exactly. Complementary kind of skills.
Right. A little bit of competitive edge there. Right? And I do notice a little back and forth every now and then.
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah.
But it's good stuff. Yeah. You guys are great. I enjoy the podcast, and, I encourage folks to check it out. So, all right. Reddit. What the heck is Reddit? Yes. How does it work? Let's talk about it.
So Reddit, it's been around for a long time, and it's been very, very popular for a long time. And when I say very popular, I mean top 20 websites around the world for years, and as high as 6. And when we say like that kind of websites popularity, that's like the Facebook, Google, YouTube, those type of popularity websites. Reddit's been up in that group, but I'd say that it's kind of a sleeper because no one, really slams in the media for privacy, probably because it really doesn't have such privacy issues as Facebook, et cetera. But it's just not as flashy as maybe some of the social media. So it's just kind of an undercurrent of the internet. They call themselves the front page of the internet.
Right.
But I'd say it's not necessarily the front page of the internet. It's kind of what weaves through everything, I think. Anything that you see going on in any social network, things that are happening in the, pits of despair of the internet, everything has like some kind of touch on Reddit. Somewhere in Reddit, somebody's talking about it. Somebody has insight on it. Somebody has a little wisdom to add.
Right.
It's a pretty amazing website.
And I think one of the things, and correct me if I'm wrong here, is that it does archive like much longer. Like things live in there a lot longer than most things, right? Something may be taken down somewhere, but it may live, or at least a conversation about what was up there may live in Reddit if you know where to look for it, right?
Right. So unlike the social media, it's not like so temporal. The older stuff isn't hard to find at all. It's just, in fact, it's very well indexed by Google, most of it. The way that it's structured, it is a forum of forums. So the main Reddit really has nothing, but if you go into different sections of Reddit, they all have content. And then what happens is sometimes that content becomes popular enough to push into what's called the Reddit main page.
Okay.
But there's tons of subforums. You can join Reddit, and I can't remember, it's 30 days or 60 days of being a member. You can start your own subforum on whatever topic you can think of. And I would suggest before you do that, though, search, because pretty much every topic is pretty well covered.
Right.
In Reddit.
That's pretty awesome.
Everything from locations to, different, specific spices or who knows what, right? There's pretty much everything covered.
I'm sure there's something out there about pizza, right? The best slice of pizza.
I'm sure they're absolutely the best slice of pizza. There might be several subforums related to that, Right. Yeah, absolutely.
And those subs you're talking about, that's called a subreddit, correct?
That is called the subreddit, yes.
Okay. So let's say our average Joe investigator's got a case that they're looking into, and he or she's not sure where to begin, and they think like, hey, maybe it'd be a good idea if I at least do my due diligence and check in and see if there's anything in Reddit. Like, how does that work? How would you go about doing that?
Well, it really depends on what you're looking for your case, but I'll give you a couple of hints. The first thing is, just use Google and do some Google dorks, right? Advanced searches in Google, and search Reddit with Google. Now, let me tell you, like I said before, Reddit's very thoroughly indexed, at least the public stuff in Reddit. There is private content in Reddit. You're not going to get that in Google, but the public stuff is very well indexed in Google, unless it's super fresh, like brand new, just written. So I would just start with that. I would just start on Google and do a site colon, and then type reddit.com space and whatever keywords you're looking for. And you're going to start pulling stuff up. Now, one other thing that I would do is if you are investigating, maybe you are doing due diligence on a company, or if you're investigating a specific domain or company, take that domain of that company. So, for example, Plessas.net, my company. You would just say, just in the URL, put reddit.com/domain/Plessas.net. And that's immediately going to show you everywhere that anybody has posted a link from that website into Reddit. Okay. And it's a great way to see like what's being shared about that site.
Great. So what type of cases would you normally say you find the most information or the most helpful to do a Reddit investigation using?
Okay, so I'm going to say the most obvious cases are cases having to do with cybercrime or internet culture. And by internet culture, I mean the stuff related to something like 4chan or 8kun or 8chan that get posted and discussed on Reddit. But that's not the only thing that you would find on Reddit. Almost anything you see in social media, there will also be some kind of shadow of it in Reddit. So, for example, if there's a major event happening, a protest or a fire or a shooting or something going down in the middle of town, people run around automatically to Twitter. They go to Facebook to see if anything is posted there. Right. Go to Reddit too.
Okay. Oh, that's good news. That's a good way to check into things. So for the layperson here, 4chan, 8chan, what exactly are those and how do they work?
So 4chan is what's called an image board. It's a board where people can post image and text, but then the content of it does not get archived at all. And 8chan, I believe is similar to that in theory. Now it's recently moved around. The reason that these two are that I mentioned, though, it has nothing to do with like how the forums run, but more of the internet culture that is actually going throughout those forums. And that's when you get things like the how can I describe this? An example would be just recently here in Arizona, we had a shooting at the Westgate Mall or at the Westgate Shopping Center. And that Westgate Shopping Center, it turns out the person who did the shooting, he self-identified himself as an incel. And an incel is somebody who says that they're involuntarily celibate because for whatever reason, women don't like him. It's a misogynist kind of self-identification. Okay. And so he's not the only one who has, done some sort of violent act based on his self-identification with this group. So those type of people will talk on the chans, and that stuff gets moved to Reddit. And I'd say Reddit is probably the ones who are talking on Reddit are usually the ones who don't go as far as to go to these other chans and to try to be a little bit. They're the ones who are a little, I wouldn't say less devoted to an ideal, right, but they're more on the surface of the internet. They're not digging so hard. Right. But you will see that kind of thing happen across Reddit as well.
So I think, and correct me if I'm wrong again, right? So this is a place where folks really go to just voice their displeasure or their opinions about things. And it's almost like a safe space, right? I can say and do what I want to say and nobody's really going to know about it, but I can get it off my chest and have conversations with other people about these things that are bothering me, right?
Somewhat, and I wouldn't have to say even bothering you, though. So it's somewhere where people can share news around about their city. You can identify who you are if you want to, or you can keep yourself fairly unidentified. Reddit itself is not going to, you don't have a profile page that has pictures or anything. You do have a profile page, but it says pretty much what you want it to say and then how old your account is. And people can create multiple accounts, and Reddit does not care. In fact, I'm not even sure right now if Reddit still might not even require you to have a verified email address.
Right.
It didn't in the past. You could just sign up for Reddit, create an account with a password, and never have an email to back it up.
What's been your experience with having to, if you've had it, having to issue subpoenas to get information from Reddit regarding their users? Is that something that's completely impossible? They're just going to ignore you?
No, totally possible. No, they're compliant.
They are. Okay.
They're compliant to lawful orders. Absolutely.
Okay.
And they're not, like some social networks are kind of on the hostile side. I've never heard about that any time when Reddit has been hostile to law enforcement at all.
Okay, so it's not one of these, it's not so ordered, we're just ignoring it. Not one of those deals, right?
No, but it does need to be a lawful order. It does need to be a court order. Of some sort.
Okay, so it does need to be sorted then. Okay, all right.
It's got to be formal.
Gotcha. It's not a fishing expedition, right? You got to have a reasonable idea that there's something there. Gotcha.
Absolutely.
If you can, tell me some experiences that you've had in using this tool, and maybe something you came across that was surprising to you, or some victory that you had in completing what you were trying to get done.
Well, one of the things, something that was surprising, it actually just happened last week in one of my classes. We were talking about automating, and Reddit is super easy to automate. They have RSS feeds for everything, and they also connect to IFT really well, that you can connect them into Zapier. There's a whole bunch of ways to automate them. So we're just kind of talking about automating, and we just did a quick search and just jumped into one of the channels. And the very first thing we saw on the channel at the very top of it was basically a suicide note. It didn't say I'm committing suicide, but it basically was a suicide note. It's very much in that it's kind of like a social network in that some people, like you said, that's a safe place, and that's where they're talking to, their people, to their tribe. And so we saw that, immediately had somebody call that kind of information in, because you can't ignore one, even if it's a troll.
Oh yeah, no, come on, that's the real deal.
Ignore
you
a
see
suicide
that.
note. Yeah. So that was something that just recently happened. More on the investigative side, one of the great things about Reddit, like I said, any case you're looking for, Reddit's a place that it's not going to be unsurprising to have somebody post something. So you can set up RSS feeds for different subreddits and just kind of monitor what's going on. And one of the great things about Reddit is that if you know very little about something technical, it's a good place to learn as well. So, for example, one of the things I do a lot is teach investigators who are just learning about the dark web to go and just read the stuff people posting in the different dark web subreddits. And there's a number of them. And throughout time, there were some better ones. There used to be actually the subreddits that were just very dedicated to dark web drug markets.
Right.
And they would teach each other how to avoid the police and how to buy and how to use Bitcoin and everything right in Reddit. And you could just subscribe to those subreddits and let them teach you, right? And so that's one thing I would tell investigators to do. Reddit does shut down things that it deems as illegal activity, but,
Right.
things are kind of borderline sometimes.
Right.
So it takes them a while. So it took a while for them to shut down those ones that were dedicated to the markets.
Yeah,
Eventually they did.
That was my next question, right? Do they police themselves? Like, especially, nowadays, as it was within the last day or two, Facebook's really starting to crack down on people that are posting things, and they have a whole committee now, right? That's looking at stuff.
Right. And I'm sure that Reddit has a committee of sorts as well, but I think they really rely a lot on their volunteer force, I guess you'd say, the people who moderate and then administer and everything. But if it's a dark web subreddit that wants to share information about darknet markets and where to buy drugs in the dark web, they're not going to self-police themselves and mark, like when somebody shares that. So I think they've stepped it up a little bit. I think there's a lot more AI right now looking for when people are doing that sort of thing. Some of the subreddits are self-policing themselves, saying don't mention selling directly, or their auto moderator will block you right away so that their own subreddit doesn't get knocked down by AI,
right?
Or sent at least to human moderation and then get deleted, because there has been a number of deletions. I'm saying in the last maybe 3 years even.
So there's a bunch of white knights running around in there, huh?
I don't know about that. Yeah.
Have you ever identified anybody in there that is like, ooh, like if this guy's involved, I know there's something juicy going on, or not really?
Sometimes it's difficult on there, but there are a few people that I watch, and not because necessarily that I'm investigating them, but like you said, because I know that they're going to lead me to some juicy places.
Right.
And so I'm not going to pinpoint who they are right now. But one of the things that another thing I teach quite a bit is you find somebody who's really active in a forum that you consider a good resource, right? For whatever it is, dark web, for example. You find somebody who's super active in that. You don't know who they are. You have no indication that they're selling or buying. They're just active and they're posting about whatever. All right, so maybe you're not going to investigate them, but one thing you can do is to run their account through something like snoopsnoo.com or redditmetis.com or redditinvestigator.com and see what other subforums they're in, because they might be in some other good ones that you would also like.
Okay, that's good to know. Let's talk a little bit about your teaching, because that is a good part of what you do as well, right? The instruction on this
Absolutely.
stuff. So tell me a little bit about how that works and how you got into doing that.
As I said before, when I first started my company, it was because people were asking me to come give classes and come give speeches. So I started giving a lot of shorter classes and speeches at conferences, that sort of thing. Eventually, that kind of morphed into a couple training programs. We have our signature class, which is a 3 or 4 day class where we talk basic OPSEC, basic internet skills, and then we really hammer social media. And the 4th day, if you add that, would be a dark web day. So that's like our package. We do a lot of training. We have a DEA NDCAC course that floats around, and NDCAC is the National Domestic Communication and Assistance Center. It's an FBI office that is an outreach office for state, local, tribal law enforcement, where all of those levels can go and get tools and like go-bys and information from NDCAC without NDCAC being involved in the case whatsoever.
Okay.
Right. So you have your case and you see a brand new social network. You can go to NDCAC and you can go look at that social network and find the processes to file any of your search warrants to them. But NDCAC also has a big training program. And so you go into their training calendar, and the DEA class that DEA and I formed over 10 years ago is in there. And we travel the country and give that class, usually about once a month.
Okay. Do you have webinars also that you offer online, or you're pretty much just
teaching? I do webinars
in person?
No, I'm actually, okay, so we created that signature class. And most of the time that's usually for private customers and law enforcement or corporations, which will hire me to do that course just for their groups. But we did offer it last week. We did it for the first time as a webinar, just open to the public. And we had a great result. We had a great crowd of people and had an awesome class. And that was the class, of course, I said that we found the suicide done on Reddit. But it was a great class in general.
Right.
The students were fantastic. And so I think we're going to do more of those. Some of them are going to be more focused. I think we're going to do a fraud one next month. And then we have webinars. We have a lot of webinars. Almost every Thursday that I'm not in a seminar, we do a webinar on Thursday evenings.
Well, that's great. Mm-hmm. You're a jack of all trades.
Oh, I don't know about that, but I work a lot. I'm definitely driven, we'll say. This week's webinar, and I know it's going to be passed by the time this gets published, but for example, we're going to be looking for the Finstas, those fake Instagrams.
Okay.
So I don't know if you've heard Finsta before.
Yeah, sure. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, for anybody who hasn't, it's basically, like the teenagers, how they'll have two Instagram accounts, one right. for their parents to know about and one that their parents don't know about.
Right. The good boy account and the bad boy account, right?
That's right. Exactly.
Yeah. That's great. So yeah, and that's what's one of the things that I've noticed actually is that a lot of folks like yourself and Cynthia and all that, like and even Paraben, right, with Amber Schroeder, like you guys are really trying to get more material out there during this downtime for investigators to at least learn what other sources or other things that are available investigative wise that they can offer their clients, which I think is fantastic, right? Just giving them like, right. Hey, this is out there. Here's a broad overview of what we do and how you can do some of it yourself or how you can sell to your clients. I think it's been fantastic. There's been some really good webinars out there.
Yeah, and if you consider that, Paraben, Hetherington Group, and myself, we're all very small companies.
Yeah.
And we were really depending a lot on travel to our customers. And when that got cut off, we need to serve our customers no matter what. And we also still need to keep these companies alive so that we can help them with investigations in the future. So I know that we've been hustling and getting, as information as much out there as possible.
It's been very crazy, right? It's been very interesting these times, those of us that are going to come out of it are the ones that have done these trainings and the ones that have re-examined their business practices and the way they're doing things and tightening up the ship and doing networking with their own clients or other investigators during these downtimes. I think those are the folks that are going to be okay.
Yeah, this downtime should not be downtime. This should be watch how things change and flow with it time.
Yeah. I had to giggle to myself a little bit when I asked you, like, how are things? And you're like, oh, I'm incredibly busy. Because to me, it's like, this is the same way, right? I'm at home. I'm not going to my office on every day, right? I'm getting there every now and then. But I'm so incredibly busy. I just wish it was things that were making me money now, but they're not. But, it's laying the groundwork for what is to come, right? And
absolutely,
that's the approach we're taking. So let's talk a little bit about Osmosis. You've got a new role this year, and I was very excited to hear about that. By the way, I was really psyched. I was like, "Oh, that's so cool!" So tell me a little bit about what you're doing this year at Osmosis.
Well, I was really honored when Cynthia Hetherington asked me to MC the Osmosis conference, and so this, by the way, even before being asked to, MC it, I tell everyone this is my favorite OSINT conference of the year. It's by far, last year I only got a chance to speak and then I had to run because I had another conference right after. But this is usually my favorite one because I learn the most, not just from the speakers. The speakers are always great, but it's just even like meeting everybody and talking to the vendors and the networking.
So
it is the best networking and just be there conference out there. And I'm really excited. She's expanding it to 3 days. It's in San Diego, which is very close to me, so I'm not in a hurry to hop in any flights. But I expect hopefully we'll have more procedures by then. However, I'm a driving distance, so I'm really excited that I can get there. I can get there early if I want and enjoy San Diego a little bit. And
it's a Gaslamp District is amazing. It's a great town. I love San Diego. I was really excited to hear that, and I think it's great that Cynthia's basically opening it up. I think this is the second or third year she's having somebody other than herself MC, and I think that's awesome. And you're right about the networking. It's just amazing to be in the room with so many brilliant minds of just talking shop, and even the bits and bites is really cool too. Like that speed dating.
Right.
That
Yeah,
she's got
a great. She has a great structure to that. She puts together an awesome conference, and then, like I said before, you have great speakers, but sometimes the big brain ideas that I hear when I'm there came from somebody who just attended.
Yeah.
And I have to tell you, like, for example, I know that Mike Lombardi, I don't know if you know him. He attends it every year.
Right.
That guy comes up with the coolest stuff.
Right.
So, he's not speaking, but if I could tell you to tell any of your listeners who you need to go look for and go figure out and talk to, Mike Lombardi, go find him.
There we go. Right now, I'm going to hunt him down. Mm-hmm. I mean, maybe I'll have to do an episode with him because I will be podcasting from out there. So Cynthia and I were talking about.
You should definitely grab him.
Having some sort of presence out there, and that's we're going to be recording shows out there. So I'm very excited about that too. Mm-hmm. So how do folks get a hold of you if they want to learn more about this stuff or just have some basic questions?
Sure. I mean, I'm always available. My website's plessas.net. There's a phone number right on that website. It's better if you text me because I don't answer unless I recognize the number because I get too much spam, as we all do.
Right.
You can also email me. The email is also on there, although I think it's in like the smallest possible print you could possibly ever use. So it's actually info@plessas.net will get to me. But you can always find me on Twitter as well. I'm very active on Twitter, and I'm very responsive to chatting on Twitter, and I love talking on Twitter. That's one of my favorite sources for just, brainstorming things. So if you just want to chat about some source or whatever, Twitter's an awesome place.
Yeah, we'll have all your contact info in the show notes too, so folks can find you.
Okay, thanks.
So, hey, thank you so much for this. This was great. I know we probably could have spent a bunch more time digging in deeper and deeper on this stuff, but I just wanted to do a 40,000 foot view of Reddit investigations, what that looks like, just to just talk about it and make sure investigators know that they should be using that resource, at least checking for more information. So, I really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you.
All right.
I really enjoyed it as well. Yeah,
and I look forward to seeing you in San Diego. In faith, I brought my plane ticket, so my wife's not too happy about it, but hey, it is what it is. I'm doing it in faith. And,
all right, yes, and I'll see you there. Definitely.
Sounds good. Thanks, and thanks everybody for tuning in, and we'll check you guys out next week on the next show. Take care, everybody.
Thank you for checking out the show today. Kirby sure does know her stuff about Reddit. We encourage you to take a look at some of her instructional content out there. We are also happy to announce that Kirby will be contributing exclusive content to the Investigator's Toolbox. We also want to thank Crosstracks, Delft Point, and Investigators-Toolbox.com for sponsoring the show. Now please, folks, check out their sites and consider using their services. Make sure you use code PIP20 for additional savings. Next week, it's the return of Nick Himonitis. The topic is Bitcoin investigations. Please be sure to give us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts and share the show with your friends. Have a great week, stay safe, and thanks for tuning into PI Perspectives.